My name is Nakaira G. Welcome to GRIOT of the Diaspora. We are back, and today I am here with Nzali. We are reporting live from Ghana. And so today we are going to talk a little bit about being a Black expat. We're going to talk about elections, voting, and the fact that the USA and Ghana are both doing presidential elections this year. So unfortunately, none of us can escape. So before we get into the first segment, me and Nzali are just going to catch up really quick so you guys can get to know us, get to know who we are, what we do, and then we'll get into the first segment. So, how are you?
Hi, it's good to see you again.
It's good to see you too. Me and Nzali met at a brunch in December. I hosted with another organization. So that's how we met.
Yep.
Yes.
We're both in the diaspora telling the truth.
Yes. So how long have you been in Ghana?
2017, so that's 7 years. June was 7 years.
Yes, and I remember you were saying at the brunch you are a teacher, you're in education. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So my background is in education. I've stepped out of the classroom, out of the school system per se, but I still do consulting on the side. That looks like training new teachers in Ghana, Nigeria. I've also done some work in South Africa. Outside of that, my new project, my new baby, is me taking education into another space, but it's called She Works Digital Africa. Basically, I'm training young women in Africa how to work and find money online.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. So when you say consulting for education, does that include homeschooling, parents that are coming down that have children and they're trying to figure out where to put their children?
Originally, that's actually how I started in Ghana. So I started with the homeschooling co-op that was based out of, I guess, what is considered North Legon. And then from there, I went into the school system. I think for me, the homeschooling space was not as structured as it is in the U.S. I think if I was in the U.S., I wouldn't mind doing that because people are more familiar. In Ghana, it just kind of seemed like people wanted to just come and drop their children off. And you're like the daycare, and I'm like, no, like there has to be more structure, more flow with the things that we really are trying to relay to them. And so I actually backed away from that. Now, people still hit me up because they know I'm in education. So they're like, okay, do you know any good schools? Can you recommend me? The school that I was an assistant principal at was a inclusive school, so I also work with children with special needs. So a lot of those families also hit me up when they're coming to Ghana. Where can I find resources, things like that. So I'll give that for free. Like, yeah, here, go here, talk to this person, meet this principal. But working with homeschooling families and placement stuff, I don't do that anymore, Mine is strictly focused on, you know, helping teachers elevate their game in Ghana. Because, you know, our school system is a work in progress.
Yes.
Our mentalities around education are a work in progress. So that's why I focus on that population. And I like working with new teachers. I don't want the teacher that's been doing it for 15 years because they're set. I want people fresh out of university, or this is like their first big career, you know, step. And then I work with those people because those are the people who are more open.
Yeah. Nice. So for those of you who don't know, I went to college here. I went to University of Ghana for 1 year. Yeah, and I studied abroad, so that's how I got here. I came in 2013. I stayed for 1 year, stayed on campus, and pretty much every other year I kept coming back for like a month or 2 months, and then in 2022 I moved here. Yes, so that is how I got here. Okay, so let's get into the first segment.
Okay, no problem.
So the first segment is called How Are You Liking Ghana? I came up with this because I feel like every time I meet someone, that's what they ask me. That's the first thing that they ask me. How are you liking Ghana? But it's always an awkward conversation because I live here and I'm not a tourist. So I don't know how to give a tourist answer without giving like a paragraph of how I really feel about it.
I typically am just like, oh, yeah, it's good. It's cool.
Yeah, I'm always like, yeah, it depends on the day. If I'm having like a day, I'm like, do you really want to know? Because I'll tell you. But for the most part, I'm just like, please, it's fine. So the way that we're going to do this is we have a bowl here. It has some questions, and then we'll pick them and ask each other the questions we both can answer, and then we'll pretty much go from there. So let you go first. You can ask me a question. Right.
Okay. Why did you leave America?
Oh, Because I studied abroad. And I made the decision to leave. I don't necessarily consider myself as like I left 100%, even though I did, because I don't have a residence there. But I'm not settled. I'm not a settled down person. So I just feel like wherever I am, I don't really live anywhere. I just kind of like...
You're a global citizen.
Yeah, I live in the world. So...
Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
I have a long story of how I got out of the U.S. So originally, 2014, I did a like womanhood rites of passage.
Okay.
And so during that process, we do something called sanctuary, where you like basically are like fasting for a certain amount of time, and whatever comes to you, you're supposed to write it down. So it came to me like, oh, I should live and work in Africa, and that was one of the things. It was a list of things. But I was like, okay, you know. So one of the women from that group was like, just throw the net out, see what comes back. Yeah. And so she suggested Peace Corps. Okay. And I was totally anti-Peace Corps. I'm still a little anti-Peace Corps. But nonetheless, I applied. She knew the person who was over recruitment. So I ended up leaving like that. It literally was something that I felt just like divinely guided, like, oh, I should go here. And so I went to the Peace Corps. I was in South Africa first, and then Ghana. A lot of it was just at that time in my life, I was on a journey of like, okay, I've done what people wanted me to do. I went to university. I have a career. Right. I'm good at what I do. Now what? Yeah. And so I guess maybe I was on my like eat, pray, love journey. Yeah. I feel like we had a similar experience in that, you know, because I feel like a lot of times when people talk about why they left America, a lot of times I feel like, and sometimes I feel like it is over exaggerated sometimes, like they make it seem like you're just gonna die. And like, it's like, I get it, but it kind of be over exaggerated a little bit. But like same, like I came like through a program, I came like with a system kind of put together for me. You in. Yeah. So we kind of. And I think also a lot of that has to do with our age. Because a lot of people who come to Ghana are older. And for them, I don't know what their life experiences are like. Right. It might feel like this is my last hope to like do something else. Right. But for me, when I first came to Africa, I was like 27, I think. So I was 20. Yeah, see, that's a totally different life experience. I didn't even have enough invested in the U.S. to be like, it's so terrible. Like, right. You know, yeah. I was still kind of new in my career. So it wasn't that pressing, but I did have this like strong desire to do something different, to see something else, to go have another experience. And so, I think it depends on your age too. For sure. Move it around. Stir it up. Okay.
Sorry for left. Are you proud of your identity?
Well, there are a lot of layers to identity, so yeah.
Okay, so let's start with which area. How do you identify?
Well, I'm a woman first. I'm African American second. I'm a compassionate person third. I don't go into I'm a daughter. I'm a no. But those three.
But with your blackness, I think what I was thinking about when I wrote this question is being in Ghana as a Black American. A lot of times people feel, wherever they are, not necessarily people here or there, but a lot of times I get this kind of conversation where people think that you have a low self-esteem about your identity. Oh, you know what I mean? Okay, you had to come to Africa to feel good about yourself, and it's kind of like, no. Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I identify as woman first. Right, so that's like a big thing for me. That 1,000 million billion %, I'm like confident in that. I think women, no matter where you're coming from on the planet, are like the most powerful beings. And I say that because like we literally like walking portals. If you think about it, like there is spirit, and then spirit comes through you and manifests to something physical. Right, that's freaking dynamic. Yeah. So. That, no hands down, like, yes. In Ghana, as African American, I feel like Number one, I'm proud to be African American. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of parts of, and I come from the South, so maybe, I don't know, we are very like, it's similar.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
yeah.
and I think there's a lot of our culture, especially from where I'm coming from, the States, that are very reflective of some of the things that I see in Ghana. So I don't really see it as one is better than the other.
Right.
I will say this, for the women who come, a lot of times women who come, if they are in heterosexual relationships, they get wrapped up in their man's culture. And then they want to be the best Ghanaian, Black American version of that. And so I think you get a mixture of that. I think some people overdo wanting to be connected. And so sometimes it comes off as like, oh, we don't have this, we don't have that.
Yeah.
But, and it also may be because Ghana is my second African country, that I just see how our culture influences people all over the world.
Yeah.
So the good parts and the bad parts, right? Either way, you know Black American culture. And I think we as African Americans don't do a good job of being like, actually, that's our culture. That's not American culture. That's us.
Yeah.
Actually, we do it like this. Because sometimes, like, even with my partner, he'll reference something, and I'm like, I don't even know what you're referencing.
I know what you're talking about. Like, sometimes if people say, like, oh, Americans do this, this, and this, and you're just sitting there like, no. White Americans do that.
Yeah.
We raise our children differently. Our households are differently. Yeah. The way that we do everything is so different. But some people would just look at it all as like, you guys have the same culture. In America, it's
in
like...
In Africa, we all are the same.
Right,
we are Americans.
Yeah.
So that's the part that I think there's a lot of education that can happen around that. And then also, for us, we have to promote it, right? We have to actually claim it, say that's what it is culture. I know for me, with the people that I'm around, if they don't understand, I say it's culture, and then leave it alone. Like... Okay, for example, I'll give an example. In my culture, we still, again, because I'm coming from North Carolina, South Carolina, people still would do baptisms at the river.
Right.
Right? And it's supposed to be churchy, but it's really not.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The whole idea of like libations and stuff, we don't really have names for it, but we do those things. And so when I mentioned that to my partner, he's Nigerian, he was kind of like, why y'all going to the river, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, because it's culture, that's what we do. So if you want to baptize your baby, if you want to give blessings, the same way they do here for like naming ceremonies and things like that, you go to the water. And so it is what it is. Like, I just feel like, your question was, am I proud of it? 100%.
Yes.
I think as a collective, we need to do more with like making identifiers like, this is our culture. And really, really like letting other Africans around the globe know that. Not just it happens by happenstance.
Yeah.
And it's not only like music and dance.
Right.
You know? It's not only music and dance.
And not just rap music at that, yeah. Because that's the music part.
Other thing. It's a whole nother piece.
Okay, it's my turn.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Okay, let's see. What is your ick in Ghana or in life?
In Ghana.
Actually, they both are the same.
Right.
I really don't like when people don't tell the truth.
That, yeah.
And the reason being is because of the way I was raised. So in my house, telling a lie was like the worst thing you could do. That's the hard. If I came in a room and slapped
you couldn't
somebody,
even say the word lie.
Yeah.
I was raised like that. Like, you couldn't even say the word lie.
You're telling stories.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's like, if I came in a room and just slapped somebody, and my parents were like, did you slap the person? They would rather me say, yes, I slapped the person. If I said no and they found out it was something else, it was like World War III.
Yeah.
So growing up, like, just being, lies were punished, right? So it's like, be
severely.
Whatever it's going to be.
Because it's a principle thing
Yeah.
more than even the action.
From my father, he always used to say, if you lie to me, I can't trust you. And that was like a big thing. He would rather just know what it is than to not know. And, you know, so that really, it really gets under my skin.
My ick is, I don't even know how to word it, but just like the excessive peeing everywhere. It's something I cannot get used to because it's a principle thing for me.
Yeah.
when I look at it from a super spiritual standpoint, it's like almost synonymous to how I feel some people feel about women. You know,
explain that. Yeah, I would like to.
Because when you say Mother Earth, when you identify the earth as a woman, when you identify nature as a woman,
and then you pee on her,
and then it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
Like it to me, I see the parallels just like bright as day. And spiritually, that's how I look at it. I look at it like, because when you hear why people don't do it, it's usually because of a spiritual reason. You get what I'm saying? Like why people don't just like pull it out and just pee. Like it's like when you hear other cultures, other people in other places, it's always like spiritually, no, we don't believe in that. I mean, even with Islam culture, you can't even be seen doing that. You know, so many cultures around the world have a very specific, and it's not an ethnic thing. It's just, you know, culture. That also includes the earth, and it also includes nature, and it's not just using nature for what nature can do for you, but also that giving back culture. I think that's how my brain processes it. I am Nail Egyptian, and I'm the owner of the Nail Egyptian Press-On Collection, and I'm originally from Compton, California. I started doing nails in high school, but I started doing press-on nails when I traveled to Ghana for the first time in 2013, which inspired me to make the Nail Egyptian Press-On Collection. The style and design behind every nail set is inspired by the queens and goddesses of ancient Africa. I love when my customers tell me they feel inspired and empowered when they wear the nails, and it makes me feel happy that I'm able to connect with people in my community and make them feel beautiful. You can also visit my website at nakedgoldonline.com.
But see, I've heard, because I've asked about this, and again, this is hearsay. I don't have any data to support this, but when I've asked Ghanaians who are older, they say that wasn't always a thing. So like, let's say Rollins' time and before, like, that wasn't a thing. So I do wonder, like, what was the shift? Like, what was the shift in, like, okay, we're not doing this, but now we are doing this.
That's
and then
true.
When you hear people talk about, like, because I guess Rollins was like military rule. It was military rule. Which means heavy authority, top-down type of thing. So it's like, okay, well, maybe did people not engage in those things because it wasn't allowed, not that they internally didn't want to, or is there like something that shifted in the culture and the way people look at their environment post that time that kind of opened us up to those things?
It can be even like a response or something.
We would have to get some old heads in here to kind of break it down.
No, seriously. You know. That's interesting. Okay, the last one.
You
do it and then it's my turn. What is your favorite food in Ghana? Contumre.
Contumre. Hey, I think I have like a slight allergic reaction to contumre. It always makes my tongue itch. I'm like,
no, that's because the person didn't make it right. They didn't. If it's not cooked all the way, that's how everybody reacts to it. Even if you, like, when you wash it, you have to wash it with salt on your hands, because then your hands will itch. Like you have to wash it when you're washing it and cutting it with salt all over your hands, and then, like, when you think it's ready, let it sit a little bit more. Like, you kind of, like, we would think it's overcooked, but that's the standard of how to make it.
So then, so where can I go to get some good contumre then?
I make mine now. I can't even think. When it comes to local food, I'd rather just make it myself. Other than fufu. I'm not pounding fufu.
No. Let's see. Okay, I've gone in stages. When I first came to Ghana, I really loved groundnut soup. Okay. And then I transitioned to palm nut soup. Now I'm over palm nut oil. And so now I'm on light soup. Same. Light soup and fufu.
That's my order too. Okay, guys. So we are going to get into the second segment, which is called It's Time to Unpack.
Oh, should I be nervous?
I think they should be nervous.
Oh, okay.
But so on my website, I have a page on there called It's Time to Unpack. And that's where I do like more in-depth essays and conversations and things like that. That's like a little segment that I do for GRIOT of the Diaspora. And so it's time to unpack. So we will be talking about elections, voting, and being a Black expat during this season. What made me think about doing this way is because I feel like passport culture has been like this trending topic, and then the Blacksit, which is what people call Blacksit, I guess, the moving abroad for Black Americans or whatever. There's kind of this idea that when you leave America, you no longer have to care what's going on, or you meet a lot of people here who are diasporans who have no idea what's going on politically in Ghana. And I just noticed that kind of like a lot of people use that expatriate title to kind of just be like, I'm out the loop. I don't have an opinion all of a sudden. And I just think that this election year is going to determine if any of you can even leave your country. And so I think that this is just a really important time for people who do have dual citizenship. They're expatriates, they're nomads, they're moving around, to still take this opportunity to vote. And even if you're not comfortable voting for the president, at least if you have your rights in the state that you're from, at least still vote locally. I still have family in California, and now I have family in Atlanta. So, you know, I still care about what's going on in California and those places. So,
can I just say something really quickly before we pop in?
No problem.
Addressing the expats, Black expats, the Blacksit, and the I don't want to associate, or I don't really care what's happening. I think a part of that is people, when you first leave, for me, it took at least like a year and a half to just kind of my cortisol levels to level out, right?
Yeah.
Because you're coming from spaces that are a lot more tense, right? A lot more going on, especially if you're coming into Africa, things slow down like drastically. Yeah. And so I think a lot of that for some people is, okay, I'm just resting. I'm here trying to rest. Then as they go longer into their journey, they might start looking back. Because I know for me, when I first went to South Africa, I didn't really care what was happening at home. I was like, okay, let me just go, enjoy and like fully immerse myself there and see what's going on there. But as I've gone longer in this journey, so technically I've been in Africa 9 years. Yes. Right. Yeah. So the longer I've gone in my journey, I'm like, okay, let me pay more attention. Let me look at what's happening. And then I really honestly think, since, I don't want to say his name, but the other Orange person, guy. It makes you like pay attention. You're like, wait a minute, this is too much. Right. What's happening? And so I think this election, we may see a slight more of an uptick in those of us outside paying attention.
And something that you mentioned earlier about how what a lot of people probably can't tell because of Instagram. If you are learning about Ghana on Instagram, you don't really realize that majority of the people who not just come to Ghana, but come to stay are like retirees. Yeah. Okay. So the young people like us are like, we're coming, we're staying, but it's very few in between compared to, and then we're even smaller compared to the UK diaspora and the Canadian diaspora. The American diaspora is really honestly the smallest population of like the diaspora that is here. But one of the things that I think about a lot is because there's such an older generation of diasporans here, I feel like when people use the term bridge the gap, it kind of like makes me feel a way because a lot of people are not bridging those gaps. And a lot of times when you leave America and you have that mentality of, I don't care what's going on. Like it's different when you first leave, America, like, with me, I knew I was going back. So I, you know what I mean? And I was gone for 12 months the first time I left to come to Ghana. But I feel like regardless of you leaving, regardless of you coming, visiting, and things like that, bridging the gap is sharing ideas and sharing resources. So you know,
it's a one-way bridge right now.
It's a one-way bridge, and
Yeah.
when we talk about the issues that are going on, whether it's in America or Ghana, one of the things that always comes up is the fact that the older generation is not passing the baton, and there's not a lot of succession planning, and there's not a lot of mentorship, and there's not a lot of just talking and learning from the older generation other than just whatever we can pick up on the fly.
Yeah.
And so situations like this where, you know, or just in general, coming to a new country, you want to be able to have those conversations with elders and with community members to really get a sense of like what's going on. And I feel like a lot of times people come here and just like get into their bubble, and it's just kind of like really, really standoffish. So we're not really sharing a lot of ideas or sharing a lot of resources. We're sharing a lot of privilege, but I don't think.
Oh, the P
But
word.
but we're sharing a lot of privilege, but sometimes I just don't feel like, you know, the concept of actually bridging the gap is being is bridged. So, okay, one of the first things I wanted to get into, defining these words. There's this conversation on social media where white people are the only ones who get to be called expats, and then everyone else is immigrants. So,
repats.
You said what?
Or repats.
Yeah, like repatriate, expats, nomads, immigrants, citizens. And so for a lot of people, they've been talking about that in the like travel space and the nomad space. You know, I technically consider myself a nomad because I'm not settled in one place, right? I can be here today and then next year I want to be in a completely different place.
Yeah.
But you are a citizen of Ghana.
Yes.
Yeah, so that makes it very different. So do you have the right to vote?
Yes, I do, and I voted in the last election.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that in a second then, so we can get more into that. Okay, so before we get deep into election mode, I do want to mention a few things. So there's a list of the most black, or there's a list of the countries that have the most black expats. And so Panama, I believe, is the number one country that has the most black, specifically black American expats, I believe.
I would have assumed like Mexico or Portugal
Merida,
or something.
Mexico is one. Merida, it's spelled like Merida. Mexico, Costa Rica, Bali, and then Ghana, of course. And I think Rwanda's black expat community is growing. So we talked a little bit about, I want to transition a little bit into the elections, but right before we do that, we talked about the concept of like being in Ghana, not being a tourist, but living here, right? So for people who are using this moment and people who use election years as moments to decide, should I move, should I leave? Because once you get on social media, you start seeing the election conversation. Everyone's just like, oh, I'm leaving, I'm this and that. And it's cute. It's so funny to see people think that they could just like get up and leave and come to Africa. And it's just like, I promise you, like, this is not the place to just like get up and be like, oh, I'm just so upset, because you will be even more upset. I'm so sorry to break it to you. But like, so I have here, how do you feel? Okay, let me word this correctly. In America, as black people, we are literally black. Because we're talking about biraciality. Let me be clear. Let me go back. Because of what we look like, no one is going to question our blackness.
Yeah.
Right? But then when you come here,
well, there isn't really a black here, right?
but there becomes a class problem.
Yeah.
Right? And when you are in America, right, you deal with race, you deal with class, you deal with sexism, right? But the first thing that you always deal with is race, right? And then when you come here, you now are looked at as a white American, essentially, right? And I think that that's something that I know for me, I deal with a lot. Because I come from Compton, California, where I don't come from a place that is just so privileged. Like, I didn't grow up in a privileged type of space. I didn't grow up in the suburbs. I didn't go to private school. Like I didn't go to school with white children. Like I just did not have that experience. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people are turned off by when they come here and they don't want to feel like a white person, right?
There's some of them,
but then there's a lot.
There's a lot who do.
There's a lot who enjoy it. I'm just going to be very real. There's a lot, and I think majority,
and they lean into it. And there's some
who enjoy being a slave master for the first time.
Yeah,
that's really just what it comes down to, and it's kind of interesting to witness in person. But for people who are thinking like, oh, I'm going to do the Black Set and I'm just going to get up and pack my bags and I'm just going to go to Ghana, just understand that there are so many different things that not only you have to do legally and all that stuff, but just also processing and remembering that like this is still an underdeveloped country, regardless of how many houses are popping up that are empty. There are still
on Airbnb.
There are still things that you will have to deal with that are not going to be readily available, and that no matter how much money you have, it's really not going to fix the situation, right?
But I will say to that, okay, part of me does support Black Set just because, you know, I was a person who picked up and left, and it was literally like the thing came to me. I think it was like August of 2014. By July 2015, I was out. Like it was a very short window of when I had.
I made the decision in 2 weeks. So I mean, don't listen to me. I'm just saying.
But I think I don't think that Ghana is a country that you should Black Set to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Now, if you are going
not that quick, come, but think about it, visit.
Yeah. But I will say that because right now I have a friend who's in South Africa, having the time of her life. Coming from the U.S., I think South Africa is a country you can Black Set to very quickly because the system isn't that much different. The systems flow a little bit better, right? You're going to understand the context. And then also what I found about Black South Africans is they understand the African American experience without a lot of explanation. So you don't really have to explain your existence to them. They understand it. Now, we don't always understand them and all of the things that they have going on. But, and I'm only speaking about Black South Africans and Black Americans. I'm not speaking Black South Africans and other Africans from the continent. That's a whole nother conversation. But as a Black American, if you just want to pick up and go to Africa quickly, South Africa is an easy, soft landing spot.
For sure.
That's somewhere and it's cheaper than Ghana actually.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. So, you know, it's cheaper. The systems you're going to understand. You'll be able to get things done a little bit faster. But Ghana, I don't think is a country. I don't think everybody needs to come to Ghana.
I agree.
Because it's not for.
I agree.
It's not for everybody. Everybody's not going to do well here.
And the main thing too is you have to really think critically about the concept of development.
Yes.
I always tell people, okay, so I didn't mention this in the beginning, but I did say I studied abroad, but my major was Africana Studies, and my bachelor's and my master's. And so that's how I came to Ghana, because that's what I was studying. Now how was that? Because to me, so I feel like in Ghana, we that whole idea and concept is very... Coffee. People are just not interested in that at all. Like, what it's
does
a
it
very
mean?
My next episode that I'm shooting is about this erasure of Black Studies programs, and I'm gonna be very real with you. It's, I think, one of the biggest depressing things that I deal with being in Ghana, because I am somebody that took my major so seriously. My professors studied under the Black Panthers. The school that I got my degree from is the first school in America to make Africana Studies a degree program. So my professors were very, very radical. They were very, very serious about just the way that they talk about Africa. my department was very big on critical thinking. It was very big on challenging everything, even if the professor said it. You know, I wasn't allowed to read white authors in college. I wasn't allowed to use Wikipedia. I wasn't allowed to mention a white man's name in my classrooms.
And then you came to Legon.
And then I came to Legon.
Oh.
And
There's
I
some good professors there, like I think.
I
know at least two.
I luckily had a Kwame Nkrumah class.
Okay.
Where that's when I learned about how the country actually feels and the fact that you can't buy a Kwame Nkrumah book in the country, and most of Kwame Nkrumah's images are owned by the UK and things like that, which is really daunting, right? Because majority of us who come to Ghana, we come to Ghana with this idea that it's a revolutionary country and everybody believes in Kwame Nkrumah, and then you get here and you're like, oh my God, they hate him. Like what? Like, you know what I mean? And then it kind of challenges you to try to understand everybody's point of view. But when you come from such a revolutionary background, your idea of revolutionary concepts and frameworks it just kind of goes past the reality sometimes, because you have to reimagine society in ways that it probably didn't exist in pre-colonial times and does not exist